Okay, this lesson is on complex numbers. We're going to be adding, subtracting, and multiplying them. So I just want to refresh your memory on a couple of things. Imaginary numbers have the I with it. Typically you see it written in this form, A plus BI. These are complex numbers. The first term is the real number. And then the term with the I is your imaginary number. Okay, we typically have seen that when we have been using the quadratic formula to solve a polynomial and we get a negative number inside of the square root. When that happens, this negative comes out as an I because the square root of negative 1 is I. And then we take the square root of the number if we're able to. Okay, so if we were to write this in the complex form, in terms of I, then we'd put our real number first and our imaginary number second. But you would simplify that radical. Okay, so when we're adding and subtracting complex numbers, we are going to do it just like we did if we had x's in there. Okay, so we're going to add and subtract like things. So 5 plus negative 2 would give us 3. And 7i plus 6i would give us 13i. So remember, when you're adding things, they stay the same. Like if we had 3 x's and we added 4 x's to it, we still have x's. We just have 7 of them now. Okay, so the I is the same way. One thing you need to just be aware of is the minus sign. Remember, it is given to both terms behind it. So we're going to say 8 minus the 2. And 3i minus the 4i. So our solution would look like this. Sometimes we won't have two parentheses, we'll just have terms sitting out. Just make sure you're following the signs and you are combining like things. So remember, when you add and subtract, you add and subtract the number portions. The variable stays the same. So the I would stay the same. Okay. Just some more examples. If you have multiple items here, just make sure they might not be in the same order. Make sure you are combining like things. So the 2 minus the negative 3 would be 2 plus 3, which would give us 5 for the real number. And then I minus 9i would give us a negative 8i for the imaginary number. Alright, and then multiplying. If you remember, when we multiplied two terms, we multiplied the number portions, so the coefficients we multiply, and then we multiply the variables. And when you multiply like bases, you add the exponents. So x times x would give us x squared. That is the same way with the I. But I want you to remember what we said at the beginning. I is the square root of negative 1. Therefore, I squared would equal negative 1. Okay? So, we're going to multiply our number portion. So 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. I times I is I squared. But I squared has the value of negative 1. So negative 20 times negative 1 makes that now a positive 20. So all that happens when you have this I squared is that the I squared goes away and you change the sign of the term. So let's say we had 12 times 7. Let's just see what that would be, 84. And I times I would be I squared. So since I have an I squared, that goes away and the sign changes in front. So now I have a negative 84. Okay? Now let's talk about when we have binomials that we're multiplying together. Some of you learned the box method. You most certainly can use that method when you're doing this type of multiplying of binomials. Remember, you just place your terms around that box, and then you multiply to find out what your solutions are here. Just make sure you're multiplying all the way across. Okay, now this I squared is going to go away, and it's going to make that 15 the opposite sign. So now the 15 is a negative, and we have 24 minus 15, which is 9. And then here we have I terms, and negative 20 and negative 18 is negative 38I. So we're able to combine both of these portions of the box. Okay? If you have a squared or any kind of power on the outside, remember that just means you're going to multiply this expression by itself 2 times. So we have 2 of them instead of just 1, and we're going to multiply. Okay? And I just want to show you one that's a special trinomial. So when we FOIL here, if those of you that know how to FOIL, you could use the box. So you can always use the box. So we would multiply the 2 by the first term and by the second term in that back parentheses. Then we would do the same thing with this second term. We're going to multiply the 3i by the 2 and by the last term, negative 3. So negative 3i times 3i times negative 3i is negative 9i squared. Because this is I squared, it's going to go away, and we're going to change the sign. In the middle, because this was plus and minus of the same thing, these 2 terms cancel each other out, and all we're left with is 4 plus 9, which is 13 for this particular solution. Okay? So, box method works just as well. Make sure that when you do the box method, that when you have that I squared, that you take care of that before you combine your terms. So if I have this, the squared I goes away, and that changes sign. Okay? So here we can add these 2 together. That gives us 13. We can add these 2 together, and that gives us positive 13i. Okay? So, good luck.